We're going to look at some examples of the 4 different types of market structures. The first one we're going to look at is examples of perfect competition. And so I have a picture here of a farmer's market. I have a picture of an elevator with a bunch of corn, and then I have some actual stock certificates. So when we look at the characteristics of a perfectly competitive industry, we know there are a lot of firms that have very, very little market share. So when we are talking about a farmer's market or corn farmers or the people who buy and sell stocks, there are hundreds, actually probably thousands, maybe millions of farmers or people who contribute to the agricultural industry. So there's lots and lots of them, too many of them to affect the market. When we look at this mound of corn here, the number of farmers who have contributed to that are hundreds, again, if not thousands of farmers. But you notice that they just throw it in a giant pile. And why is that? Because their products are identical. They are homogeneous, so we can just throw them all on there. If you want to open up a little stand at a farmer's market, you can do that. If you want to not do it, you don't have to. If you want to buy stocks, it's very easy to get into that. You can buy a stock or sell a stock. It's not difficult. If you want to be a farmer, there's really nothing that's stopping you from being a farmer. And in terms of the control over the price, the individual farmer has no control over the price. They are what's called a price taker. And so when they go to sell their corn, at the elevator, they pull up, and the people there tell them this is exactly how much we will give you for your corn. The person who is selling the corn has zero say in what they're going to sell. So they really have no control over the price. And the reason that is because each one of these people who work in this industry, they're very small. And since everyone produces an identical product, if they don't like the price that you're trying to sell it for, they'll just get it from somebody else. Monopolistically competitive, there are lots and lots of producers. Their products are similar. They are substitutes, but they're not identical. So when we look at fast food or restaurants, here's just a few of the fast food restaurants that we are familiar with, but there are hundreds, thousands of different restaurants that you can go to. Again, some are very expensive, some are extremely cheap. If you have a favorite, if they continue to raise their price, then you will go somewhere else to get that. A number of places you can get your hair cut, the number of places that you can buy clothes and the different brands of clothes. These products are what's called differentiated. They are similar, they are substitutes, they are not identical. And obviously, if you want to open a restaurant, there's really nothing that's stopping you. No government entity or any trade secrets. If you have a recipe and you want to start something, go for it. So it's very easy to get in and out of these industries, whether it's you want to work at Great Clips and cut hair. You can open up your own shop. There are millions and millions of, thousands and thousands, maybe not millions, but thousands of places that you can go to cut hair, and the same with all of the different places that we can go to purchase clothes. So you can get in and you can get out. They do have some market power because they differentiate their product, because they make it different. They can increase or decrease the price depending on their selling points, I guess. In monopolistically competitive industries, these are the types of industries that you will see advertised. And what are they advertising? The differences that they have made in their product to try and increase the demand for their product. And if they can increase the demand for their product and get people to really think theirs is better and different, then they can charge a higher price for it. The reason they use monopolistic at the very beginning of that, because this is a competitive industry, but they have monopoly power over the brand. So if you want Taco Bell, the only place that you can get Taco Bell is at Taco Bell. Another company can't open up and call themselves that and sell the same exact thing. Same with Starbucks or Burger King or, Great Clips is Great Clips. Everyone on your clothing, some people are very brand loyal in their clothing, and so these different businesses have monopoly power over the brand, but not the product itself. So the products are similar, they're substitute. There is some market power in terms of pricing power because of this idea of differentiating and attaching a label to it that people would be willing to pay a little bit more money for. Oligopolies, excuse me, there are two different types of oligopolies. Pure, that just means their products are identical. They are homogeneous. And then you have differentiated oligopolies, which means they make their products look different. Oops, and I put Fast Food Nation on here. I am not stopping this video, so ignore the food there. I picked up the wrong one, the wrong image, and I didn't go back and look at that. So the picture in the top left right there, that is steel. So steel industry here in the United States, first off, an oligopoly has very few producers, and each has a fairly large part of the market. So there are only a few companies in the United States that you can get steel from, and the reason this is a pure oligopoly is because their products are homogeneous. Steel is steel. And so the only thing that they really can compete on is like price and delivery. Down at the bottom there are the different types of tires. There are a few more tire companies than steel companies, but if you start looking at these names, these few dominate the industry. There could be other tire companies, but most people, when they go to buy tires, this is one of the brands that they are going to purchase. So this is a differentiated oligopoly because tires are not identical, and you will see tire commercials. That's another thing. These pure oligopolies, there's really no reason to advertise their products are homogeneous. The differentiated oligopolies are the ones that you are going to see a lot of price competition. They can advertise the differences in their product and charge a little bit more for those because they are highlighting why their product is different than someone else. So the other picture that should have been up there is the automobile industry, Ford, GM, and Chrysler here in the United States, and those three pretty much dominate. We see obviously other foreign makers, but for years and years and years, the big three, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, the domestic companies, dominated the industry here in the United States. So it's not the food, it is the automobile industries. Monopoly. What we have here is one producer for the whole entire market. Their products are unique. There are no substitutes. And I didn't put with oligopoly, but with oligopoly and monopoly, there are very high barriers to entry. And when we talk about barriers to entry, we're talking about things that keep businesses who want to enter these markets from entering these markets. And typically it's because there are very high costs, or these companies have some sort of patent or a copyright on a particular item. And so in the case of a monopoly, there are other places to get diamonds, but like 80 to 90% of the diamonds that are sold in the individual stores here in the United States, and I know there are a lot of different jewelry companies, but they all get their diamonds from De Beers. Geographic monopoly, they're up in the upper right hand side. It just happens to be because typically you have one store maybe in a very small community or a community that's very far out. It takes a long time to drive somewhere else. So a last chance gas station, that's the only gas station in this particular community. A general store that's out in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of times when you see these places, they charge a little bit higher prices, but they also know that you don't want to drive another, 20, 30, 40 minutes to get to another store. So because they know this is your last opportunity to get gas or your last opportunity to get products from a general store, whether it's a small grocery store or whatever, they know that they can charge a little bit higher of a price because you can't get the products from anywhere else. All of your utilities are monopolies. Here where we live, you don't have a choice in which electric company that you're going to get your electricity from. If you live in town, you don't have a choice on where you get your water. You don't have a choice with your sewage or a lot of the utilities. So, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So only one producer. Very unique, no substitutes, extremely difficult to get into these into this particular market because of the high cost, patents, copyrights. It's said that they have complete control, but the thing that restrains their control and price is, are consumers willing to pay that price? So we still have a downward sloping demand curve, even with a monopoly. And so at some point, people will make adjustments and try to conserve or find substitutes. We know that something that has an elastic demand in the short term, we can make inelastic over time. We will find substitutes for things that people see a monopoly making tons and tons of money. I wanted to specifically highlight a natural monopoly. Your utilities are a natural monopoly. Most of the time what we see is that competition is a good thing, and that we know we have antitrust laws in place to protect competition. Competition means lower prices and higher quality. The exception to that is things that actually are cheaper if there is no competition. So natural monopolies mean that we can produce this product without competition, and that idea of economies of scale. As we produce more and more units of electricity, we can spread the fixed cost. And what you're looking at here, the wires and the stations and everything that it goes into making electricity, very, very expensive. And so if we allowed competition and people were allowed to pick the electric company, we would have these substations all over the place. We would have wires and poles zigzagging all over. And so what they've found is, if you allow one company to produce that and have more and more customers, the more customers that we have, where we can split up the fixed cost over more and more customers, it's actually cheaper to produce electricity if we allow one company to do it. So a natural monopoly, your example for that is going to be electricity or your utilities, where because of economies of scale in this idea that we can spread our fixed cost over all of these customers, it's actually cheaper to produce electricity when there is no competition.